Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Gossips 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Brooke's hands trembled as she paced the length of the Forrester living room, the early evening sunlight streaming through the grand windows, catching in her hair like a halo she didn't feel she deserved. She had always been the glue of this family, the one who could smooth over any crack, patch any wound, and bring everyone back together. But today felt different. Today felt like the moment she had been holding her breath for. The moment where all the secrets she had somehow ignored, or perhaps naively thought would never surface, were ready to explode. Hope had stormed into the room earlier, her usual gentle confidence replaced by a stormy, almost feral determination. Brooke had tried to calm her, had tried to remind her that not everything needed to be said in anger, that some truths could wait. But Hope's eyes had blazed with the kind of intensity that only comes when someone knows they are about to change the course of everyone's life. "I can't keep this inside any longer, Mom," Hope had said, her voice shaking just enough to betray how deeply she had been struggling. Brooke had nodded, heart pounding. She had no idea what Hope was about to reveal, only that it would shatter everything in its path. Then it came. "I lied about Liam," Hope had whispered, the word striking Brooke like a physical blow. Her own breath caught in her throat. "I didn't tell him the truth about the business, about Bill. About the money. Everything." Brooke's mind spun. Liam. Bill. Money. Secrets. Everything she had tried to keep buried under the fragile peace of the Forrester household was unraveling before her eyes, faster than she could blink. And then Bill was there, entering the room with that calculated stride of his, the kind that made the walls themselves seem to tense in anticipation. Brooke's stomach lurched. She knew that expression, Bill's explosive energy, the mix of fury and disbelief, the sharp edge of betrayal in his eyes. She had faced him before in moments of anger, yes, but never like this. "Hope," he said, his voice low. A dangerous rumble that filled the room and left Brooke's heart racing. "What did you just say?" Hope's face hardened. "I told her the truth, Dad. I told her everything. About how you've been manipulating Liam. About how you've been controlling everything behind the scenes." Bill's jaw tightened, and in a move so swift it left Brooke reeling, he stepped forward and slapped her. Not just a casual slap. A sharp, explosive strike that echoed in the room like thunder. Brooke's hand flew to her cheek, her eyes wide with shock, her mind scrambling to comprehend what had just happened. The room went silent. The air felt thick, heavy, as if every particle of it had frozen in time. Hope stared at him, incredulous, anger flashing in her eyes. You can't just," she began, but Bill cut her off with a harsh laugh that sounded more like a bark of frustration than amusement. "You've crossed a line, Hope," he said, his voice deadly calm now, the fury simmering beneath the surface like magma. "And Brooke?" He turned to her, his gaze cutting, full of accusation, disbelief, and a complicated mixture of hurt and rage. "I can't believe you would stand there and let this happen. Let all of you lie to me." Brooke could barely speak. Her lips trembled, words failing her as the sting of the slap burned not just on her cheek, but deep into her chest. She wanted to say something, anything, to bridge the canyon that had suddenly opened between them, but the room had become a battlefield, and the simplest words felt like inadequate weapons. Hope's voice broke the tension, sharp and commanding. "You don't get it, Dad. You don't get that your lies, your manipulations, you're controlling every little piece of our lives. It's not just about business, it's about people. About families. About destroying the people who love you the most." Bill's eyes narrowed, the anger in him boiling over. "You think you know better than me?" he spat, pointing a finger that trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the intensity of his emotion. "You think you can dictate the truth to me? After everything I've done for this family?" The irony of the statement hung in the air like smoke from a fire that was consuming the room. Brooke could feel it. The entire history of betrayals, manipulations, and heartbreaks that had built up in this family, all culminating in this one explosive, shattering moment. She realized with a sinking heart that nothing would ever be the same again. Hope stepped closer, her posture defensive but unyielding, her eyes locked on her father. "Yes, Dad," she said, voice unwavering. "I think I do. I think you've crossed every line imaginable. And now it's time for the truth." All of it. Bill's lips pressed into a thin line, his chest rising and falling rapidly as he fought to control the storm raging inside him. For a moment it seemed as though he might lash out again, and Brooke's heart seized at the thought. But then slowly he withdrew, the tension in his muscles easing just enough to allow for a dangerous calm. His eyes never left Hope's face. "You better hope," he said, the words low and dangerous, "that what you've just revealed doesn't destroy more than it already has." Brooke sank into the couch, pressing her hands to her face, feeling the sting of humiliation, anger and despair all at once. She had always been the protector, the one who held everyone together, and yet now she felt powerless, a spectator to the implosion of her own family. Hope took a step back, allowing the gravity of her confession to settle over them. She had always been the voice of reason, the moral compass in a family often lost in its own drama. But now, standing amidst the fallout, she realized that even the strongest voices could not always prevent disaster. The room was silent again, each second stretching into eternity. Brooke felt as though the walls themselves were closing in, pressing down with the weight of secrets, lies, and betrayals. She had no idea how they would recover from this. Could they even recover? And yet, somewhere in the back of her mind, a tiny spark of hope remained. For all the pain, all the anger, all the devastation, Brooke knew that families survive through storms. They always did. And while this storm was the worst yet, perhaps, just perhaps, it could also be the beginning of a new truth, a chance to rebuild stronger and more honest than before. The tension in the Forrester living room was almost unbearable. Brooke's hand still hovered near her cheek, tingling from the sting of Bill's slap, but she forced herself to breathe, to steady the whirlwind of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. Her mind raced through the years of drama, betrayals, and complicated love affairs, realizing with an aching certainty that this moment, was the culmination of all those years. Nothing could erase the scars that had formed tonight. Bill leaned back slightly, the tension in his shoulders refusing to release entirely. He was a man of power, of control, and yet, for the first time in what felt like forever, he felt unmoored. His daughter's words, sharp and deliberate, had cut through his armor, and the sting of confrontation was unlike anything he had experienced. He was furious, but he was also terrified. Terrified that Hope's revelations weren't just personal attacks, but truths that could unravel everything he had built. "Hope," he began, his voice calmer but loaded with an undercurrent of steel, "you don't understand the consequences of what you've done. You're shaking the foundation of this family. You're shaking me." Hope held her ground, her chin high, eyes flashing. "No, Dad. You don't understand. I'm the one who's lived with the lies. I've been careful. I've watched. I've seen what your manipulation has done to all of us. Liam doesn't deserve this. I don't deserve this. And neither does Brooke, or anyone else in this family." Brooke, finally finding her voice, stepped between them. Her tone was calm but firm, carrying decades of maternal authority and resilience. "Bill, stop," she said softly, yet with a command that cut through the storm in the room. "This isn't just about you or Hope. This is about all of us. We need to hear the truth, yes, but we also need to remember that we are a family. No matter how hard it is, we cannot let this tear us apart." Bill's glare softened just slightly as he turned toward Brooke. "You always try to be the peacemaker, don't you?" he muttered. "But sometimes, Brooke, sometimes peace is a lie. Sometimes what's real hurts more than anything else." Hope took a deep breath, and the room seemed to tighten around her as she prepared to speak again. "Then hear this, Dad. I found out about the money, about the deals, about the lies you told Liam to keep him in your corner. I know what you did to manipulate him, to keep him from seeing the truth about himself and the people he loves. And I can't let it continue. Not anymore." Bill's eyes narrowed, and for a brief moment, he looked less like a titan of industry and more like a wounded man, someone stripped of his usual invincibility, someone forced to confront the pain he had caused the people closest to him. "You think I did this to hurt him? To hurt you? To hurt Brooke?" he said, his voice breaking slightly. "I did what I had to do to protect my family. You have no idea what that responsibility feels like." Hope shook her head, tears glimmering in her eyes. "I do, Dad. I know you think you're protecting us, but protection doesn't come from lies. Protection comes from truth. And the truth is what you've been hiding is destroying everyone it touches." Brooke took a tentative step closer to Bill, her hand reaching out, not in accusation, but in a gesture of fragile reconciliation. Bill, I know you love this family. I know you do. But love without honesty, it's poison. It destroys the people you care about most. Look at Hope. Look at what this has done to her. Bill looked at Hope, really looked at her for the first time since her revelation began, and he saw not just the daughter he loved, but a young woman forced into premature adulthood by the weight of his decisions. The anger that had fueled him moments ago now mingled with guilt and regret. His fingers twitched at his sides, a subtle acknowledgement of the internal battle raging inside him. You think I don't feel guilty? He whispered, almost to himself. Every day. I felt guilty. But you don't understand the world I live in, the choices I have to make. It's not black and white, Hope. It's never black and white. Hope's voice softened slightly, carrying both empathy and conviction. Then let us help you, Dad. Let us be part of the solution instead of part of the chaos. We're a family, and families survive through honesty, even when it hurts. Brooke's gaze shifted between father and daughter, her heart aching at the tension in the room. She knew this confrontation was far from over. Truths like these never ended in simple forgiveness, but she also knew that the moment had shifted. The foundation of deception had cracked, and from those cracks, a possibility of healing could emerge, however faint it seemed now. Just then the front door opened and Ridge stepped in, his expression grave. He had heard enough from Hope's earlier confessions to understand the gravity of the situation. What happened here? He asked, his voice steady but urgent. He scanned the room, taking in the strained faces of Brooke, Bill and Hope. I can feel the tension from across the house. Someone tell me what's going on. Hope turned to him, tears threatening to spill but held at bay by sheer determination. It's time, Ridge. It's time for everyone to know the truth. About Bill. About the lies, about everything. Ridge's face hardened slightly as he processed her words. He had always been a protector of this family, sometimes in ways that were messy, but always with the intent to shield those he loved. And now, hearing Hope's confession, he felt a familiar mix of anger and disbelief. Bill, he said, his voice carrying the weight of authority, if what you've done is as serious as she says, then this is bigger than all of us. Bill turned toward Ridge, his expression a mixture of defiance and shame. You don't understand, Ridge. I've done everything to protect this family. Everything. You think it's easy being the one who makes all the impossible decisions. No, Ridge said firmly, stepping closer, his eyes locked with Bill's. It's not easy, but it doesn't give you the right to manipulate, to lie, to hurt the people you claim to love. That's not protection, Bill. That's control. And control destroys families. For a long moment, the room was silent except for the low hum of tension, the heavy weight of unspoken truths, and the faint ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. Brooke sank into the couch, covering her face with her hands, feeling the enormity of the revelation settle over her. Hope stood resolute, her eyes glinting with the fire of truth. Ridge's posture radiated unwavering support. And Bill? Bill looked like a man confronting the consequences of a lifetime of decisions that were finally catching up with him. Then, just as the tension seemed unbearable, Liam walked in. His entrance was quiet, but it carried a weight that made everyone turn. His eyes, usually so calm, were clouded with confusion, pain, and suspicion. What's going on? He asked, his voice low but filled with a tremor of apprehension. Hope stepped forward, taking a deep breath. Liam, you deserve to know. Dad has been keeping secrets. About everything. About the money. About the lies. About what he's done to protect his image at the cost of the people he loves. Liam's expression darkened, and he took a step closer to his father. Is this true? He demanded. Everything she just said? Bill's gaze met Liam's, and for the first time, the patriarch of the family looked uncertain. Yes, some of it is true, he admitted, his voice low, tinged with regret. I've made mistakes. I thought I was protecting you, protecting everyone. But maybe I went too far. Hope's voice softened, her tears now spilling freely. Too far, Dad. Way too far. And now we all have to pick up the pieces. The room fell into silence again, heavier this time, as the family processed the weight of the revelations. Brooke rose from the couch, walking slowly toward Liam and placing a hand on his shoulder. "We'll get through this," she whispered, though the uncertainty in her voice betrayed the fragility of that promise. Ridge stepped beside her, offering a nod of reassurance. Hope remained in front of her father, unwavering, holding him accountable while also silently offering a path toward redemption. And Bill, he finally seemed to understand the depth of the damage he had caused, the real cost of his actions, not just to the business empire he controlled, but to the hearts of the family he loved. This was only the beginning. The aftermath of this revelation would ripple through their lives for months, even years. But for the first time, truth had found a voice, and in the world of the Forresters, that voice was louder and more powerful than any secret. The room was heavy with silence, the kind that feels almost suffocating. Bill sat back in the leather armchair, his hands clenched into fists on his knees, eyes darting between Brooke, Hope, Ridge, and Liam. Each of them represented a mirror of his failures, a reflection of the chaos he had caused. His usual confidence, the iron grip he had on everything from the business to the people in his life, felt stripped away, leaving him exposed in a way he had not felt in decades. Brooke, sensing the vulnerability in him, stepped closer, her hand reaching tentatively toward his. "Bill, you have to face this," she said softly. Her voice, though gentle, carried the weight of authority that came from years of guiding this family through storms. Hiding behind anger, hiding behind control, it won't protect anyone. It won't fix what's broken. Bill's eyes flicked to her, a mixture of frustration and raw emotion. "You don't get it, Brooke," he snapped, though the edge in his voice was tinged with desperation. "I've done everything to keep this family together. Everything to protect you, Liam, Hope. And now you're all turning against me." Hope took a step forward, her hands clenched at her sides, her voice firm and unwavering. "No, Dad. We're not against you. We're against the lies, the manipulation, the secrets. You think control is love, but it's not. You've hurt everyone you claim to care about, and we can't pretend it's okay anymore." Liam, who had been standing quietly, absorbing the tension, finally spoke, his voice low but sharp. "Dad, I need the truth. No more excuses. No more manipulations. What did you do to me? To us? Tell me everything." Bill's jaw tightened. For a moment he said nothing, as though weighing the consequences of every word. He had built his life on power and precision, on controlling outcomes, and yet now, faced with the raw emotional demand for honesty, he felt powerless. I thought I was doing what was best," he admitted finally, his voice quiet, almost broken. "I thought I could shield you from the worst parts of life. I never meant to hurt you. I never meant to hurt anyone." Ridge stepped forward, his presence commanding the room. "Bill, protection isn't about secrets. It's about honesty. It's about trust. And you've broken that. You've fractured the very foundation of this family. You can't just apologize and expect everything to go back to the way it was. You have to earn your way back if it's even possible." Bill ran a hand through his hair, frustration and regret twisting across his face. "I don't even know where to begin," he muttered. "Everything I did, every choice I made, it was all supposed to keep us together. I didn't see that in the process, I was destroying the people I love most." Brooke moved closer, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "Then start now, Bill. Start with honesty. Start with admitting the truth and facing the consequences. It's the only way forward." Hope, standing nearby, her expression both resolute and weary, spoke again. "It's not just about admitting the truth, Dad. It's about understanding the pain you caused. Look at Liam, look at Brooke. Look at all of us. You can't just wave it away. You have to face it. Really face it." Liam's gaze softened slightly, but there was still hurt in his eyes, a fracture in the bond he had always relied on. "I trusted you, Dad. I believed in you. Now, I don't know if I can." Bill's hands fell into his lap, his fingers twisting together. For a long moment the room was filled with silence, punctuated only by the faint ticking of the clock. He looked around at his family, the people he had spent a lifetime trying to protect, and finally allowed himself to feel the full weight of their disappointment, their anger, and their pain.